But Robert, we'd love to hear from you and welcome as a member of our club.
Thank you, Adrian. And just before I start talking about the Bionics Institute, just want to echo the words of my two colleagues, Anne and Melissa. I first was introduced to you, as you heard from your president, December 2019, which seems like eons ago, but realistically, pre-COVID, times were very different. And it was in this particular room, and I couldn't believe just how important the vibe that comes off all of you about wanting to do good, putting back, and we'd had some opportunity to deal with Reg and his colleagues before then and subsequent to that. And the reason I think we as an institute, particularly at the insistence of Reg and all the past presidents, and I'm looking at you, Robert, about saying you need to be involved with us because your purpose at your institute is exactly what ours is. It's to make a difference, to help other people less fortunate, to make a difference to anyone at every level of society. We do it in a certain way, you do it a different way, but we do all trying to do the same thing, which is to lift up and make everyone's lives that bit better. You heard from Anne, the Institute in her role is about engaging with people. You do that so very well, and the opportunity for us to engage at the Rotary level and then from the Rotary level introduce other people to our work is a great honour and a great privilege. And I know now from the dealings with some of you in the induction process that there's no such thing as a free meal with Rotary. We're up the road. We thought we might be coming along to lunches, but we do expect to be asked to contribute. And you can see Anne nodding over there. We are more than happy to contribute, not just the three of us, but all of our members and all the people that work for us. Because I think the ideals of Rotary are exactly the same ideals that the three of us are trying to inculcate into our organisation. I know we're finishing lunch and I don't want to take up too much time, but some of you wouldn't have heard me speak 4 years ago. That's a long time ago. And the ones that did probably have forgotten everything I spoke about. So Adrian said, here's your chance. And so a very brief introduction to your newest corporate member, the Bionics Institute. Everyone asked me, what do we do? And some of you will have heard of the cochlear implant, Professor Graham Clark. He started our organisation nearly 40 years ago in 1986. Passion for developing treatments for people with deafness because his parents were deaf. And that was his life's mission. He led to one of the most outstanding contributions to medical history that came from Melbourne all those years ago that spawned the company Cochlear Limited, but it really was the cochlear implant that became the basis for the Bionics Institute. We've become a world leader in hearing research since that time, but really the whole way a cochlear implant works, it's about stimulating the nerves in the ear to be able to hear sound again. What we've learned subsequently is all the engineering capability, the clinical capability that exists in this city and across Australia can be harnessed. And there's so many diseases where harnessing the nervous system's endogenous system to create ways to cure illness is a tremendous way to go, as we've seen with the cochlear implant. So what do? We employ a series of engineers, all types of engineers, mechanical engineers, software engineers, electrical engineers, biomedical engineers, linking them with scientists. We have a number of data scientists, particularly statisticians and the like, and mathematicians and physicists. And then we link them together with a number of clinicians because we're located at St. Vincent's Hospital. They keep telling us the problems to work on, and we try to come up with solutions for them. We're not your traditional medical research institute. To our international visitors, and we've got many coming, Claudia, in a few months' time, and we're going to show off one of the great things of this city, which is Melbourne's capability to do medical research is pretty much unsurpassed. I would say we're number 3 after Boston and perhaps San Francisco in the area, but not many people know that. The medical research we think about is discovery. Our business isn't so much discovery, our business is translation. What we want to do is take discovery, create solutions, and be very practical of turning them into something. What we do now is we've got a number of different themes, but they all come back to the same thing. Can we stimulate a particular part of the nervous system, or can we record from a particular part of the nervous system or the brain to create new therapeutic interventions for a range of diseases? So we're very well known for work in hearing, and I'm going to list them at the moment, but since that time in 1986 when we started, We've now morphed into developing devices to treat and monitor epilepsy, to treat and monitor Parkinson's disease. We've now developed some very interesting technologies and are looking around the age demographic of this room, balance disorders in particular, and falls. Looking at the demographics of the room, and I'm part of this as well, we've recently been able to recruit a star who has got pioneering a brand new approach to the treatment of Alzheimer's disease, which I know from personal history and family history, it's a terrible, debilitating disease. There's no drug therapy, and once you've been diagnosed, there's very little you can do. The approach that we're pioneering is very different. We take a deliberate decision to take chance and risk, but we think it could have a dramatic impact. So that's work we're now doing. More recently, the field of inflammation and chronic inflammatory diseases, as particularly with aging and autoimmune diseases, is an area we're now focused heavily on. And we're about to start a major world-first clinical trial in the field of drug-resistant rheumatoid arthritis, which affects 20% of rheumatoid arthritis sufferers around the world. And those, you might not realise, it affects nearly 50 million people worldwide, and there's nothing for them. And if you've ever seen anyone with untreated rheumatoid arthritis, the hands and the feet, their life is terrible. We've just recruited a person who's here with us right now up the road from Sweden. He's a world leader in the use of robotic or neuroprosthetics using titanium, highly engineered implants that are linked to the nervous system to allow people to actually use their brain to integrate the prosthetic. But along the way, he's worked out, he believes, how to treat phantom pain. And if any of you have ever seen anyone with an amputee or they've lost a limb, that's a major, major problem. But the underlying causes of phantom pain are probably the same causes of pain that we all know. And while we all drop aspirin and Panadol every day and we think pain is easy to overcome, anyone that's lived in this room who knows anyone who's suffered from chronic pain, you probably realise there is no cure for pain. You have to live with it. We think some of the approaches that we are developing, both by neural stimulation and other devices, can overcome that. Again, inflammatory conditions, nerve interactions. I hope none of you suffer for what I suffer, which is sciatica. We believe we have an approach to be able to cure that. It's probably 5 or 6 years away, but that's coming. We are very heavily involved in hearing loss and hearing disorders. So one of the things that we're very passionate about, and not many people know, is a disease called tinnitus, ringing in the ears. It affects many, many more people than we realise. It's about 5%, but there's a range. Some people can live with it, don't even notice it. Some people's lives is terrible and they're suicidal. At the moment, there is no cure and there's nothing that can be done because, other than perhaps some psychological therapy, because the doctors don't know what the disease is. They can't look in your head. It's completely subjective. Unless there was a way to measure your disease, you can't treat it. And so we believe we've come up with the world's first measurement using a combination of brain imaging and very unique mathematical algorithms to be able to do that. And we're going to be moving that into a trial next year alongside an experimental therapy that we think might work, but we can now measure the outcomes. The same type of approach we're using at the other end of the spectrum. People don't seem, a lot of people now in this country and elsewhere, when they're born, get measured for hearing loss. Deafness in babies is now much, much better diagnosed, but there's still a problem with a lot of children being born. They're diagnosed with hearing loss. They don't know what it is, what causes it, and therefore their speech discrimination and their ability to learn language is very, very dramatically affected. We've developed a diagnostic technique, again using brain imaging, to enable us to measure the brains of these young children as babies and see by those signals what's causing that condition, and more importantly, whether they can hear sounds to be able to learn how to speak. Again, that's a world first. That's going into clinical trial as we speak. And the last one is something I'm very passionate about. Looking at this room, it's a great room. Many of you will go to a restaurant. It's noisy. You're sitting across a table with your friends and you cannot hear them. And yet when you go and see your audiologist to get checked, your hearing's fine. The concept of being able to hear in noisy environments is, to be honest, debilitating. And it means a lot of people don't go out, they don't communicate. We now believe we know why that happens. There's a particular frequency of the ear that gets lost and we need to treat it. However, the way you treat it, devices don't work. Hearing aids especially don't work in that condition. Unfortunately, you need to have drugs. The ear being one of the most complex organs in the body, to get drugs in the ear and have them stay there is nigh impossible. Until recently, my colleagues developed a brand new drug delivery system to put things on the outside of the ear. Drug can secrete into the ear and allow nerves to regrow. And that's a world first as well. And that's about to go into clinical trials. So I'm wrapping up, but our whole model isn't to do discovery, although we do innovate. Our model is to design, test, protect. We need the intellectual property so we can actually make products. Manufacture, so we can create an industry here to do clinical trials, do clinical validation, and then hope then we can pass them on to the commercial phase. And we're very focused on taking what we've got at the bench level into the corporate sector. Again, I spoke earlier about how good this city is in medical research, but unless you're doing clinical development, that doesn't move forward. And we're very proud of the fact that a very small institute, we number at the moment 120 people. We don't think we're going to get much bigger, quite unique skills. We're currently running 4 clinical trials. We're about to start 2 more clinical trials in the next 6 months. As Anne says, we interact with the philanthropic community, angel investors and government to try to fund our activity. And also we interact with patients in particular, because one of the things that we've learnt is that we can be sitting in our bubble, in our ivory tower. At the end of the day, the doctor's telling us that what the patient needs. When we actually sit down with patients, in many cases, what the doctors tell us the patient needs and what the patient says the patient needs are 2 very different things. And at the end of the day, as much as I love doctors and I want doctors to be able to help their customers, it's the patients that are our focus. And so we have a very large program of interacting with the patients to design our products that are fit for purpose. So how does that all lead into why we're here with Rotary? Again, it's values. It's the fact that we have a very, very strong view that Australia can lead the world and should lead the world in some of the things we're doing. We are very small, we don't often get the message out, and when we do get the message out, we usually do it in a very complex, unintelligible way. And so dealing with organisations like Rotary, where it gives us an opportunity to talk about our work, to talk to people who can then take it and talk to others about it, and also bring back to us the feedback about what we should be doing for the community, is a great honour and a great pleasure, and I think something that definitely benefits us, and we hope we can benefit Rotary. So again, just to finish, I really like to thank the persistence of all your past presidents, of all the people that took us to lunch, have had coffees with us, and reminded us that, you know, this is something we should be doing. So thank you, and today is the culmination of that, but it's only the beginning, and we hope the relationship can only get bigger and better. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Robert. We had planned to take some questions, but our busy program unfortunately prevents us from doing that today. But having Robert and Melissa around the club, it really opens up the opportunity for all members to take your time and talk to them whenever you can to find out more about the Bionics Institute. So welcome, Robert, to Anne and Melissa as well, and we really look forward to embracing the change-making activities of our club.